Hello and welcome back to Pure Michigan Sports, episode 25, I believe now we're on. Christian Peck-Dimit, Alex Deimel, and 25's pretty darn good, and we've got some good stuff to talk about. As usual, this is your home for all of the sports news in the state of Michigan, whether it's on the ice, on court, the gridiron, whatever you want talked about, we're going to do just that. Before we get into it, obviously go follow us on social media. Pure Michigan Sports everywhere, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the good stuff. Substack as well, of course. And if you're wherever you're watching or listening from, whether that be on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you're getting your podcast, subscribe and drop a rating. That's the easiest way for us to grow to help out the show. But as I said, Christian Peck-Dimit and Alex Deimel here to get you all of the news for sports in the state of Michigan. And I got to start with the fact that it's a little bit darker this episode. First episode in daylight savings time.
Yeah.
Do we like daylight savings? I know that's a recent thing on social media that now everyone seems to hate it. As a now man in the a member of the working class, as you might say, it's pretty terrible to come home and it be dark like right away. Like by the time I get home, the sun's already setting, which is just awful. But thoughts?
I'm kind of right there with you. I don't like getting home to darkness. I like to kind of just ease into it, but I don't know. I mean, sports are on normally at nighttime. For me, at least at this time of year. So that's just how I'm going to choose to look at it. It makes me happier, especially when it's, when it's a rainy day in Green Bay and Lions give them a what for. I mean, it wasn't even supposed to be dark out yet, and it still was dark, because it's sad and rainy in Green Bay, especially when they're losing.
You know what? That is a great transition into where I think we have to start, which is with the Detroit Lions, who have extended their win streak now to 6 games, and they have just played some incredible football as of late. That's nothing new. We've known that for a long time. Jared Goff is on fire. We've known that for a long time. I'm more questioning at this point, and I know we're up near the upper echelon of the league, and we'll talk about that in a second, but the defense, because we went and picked up Zadarius Smith, of course. That's the biggest news. I think we'll start right there with how do you feel about that trade, the value of it, the trade itself. Obviously, it's not Max Crosby, but I think we've known for a while it's not wholly realistic that we get him for the price that they were asking the Raiders, that is. But we went and get Zadarius Smith. I think it's 3 times he's been a Pro Bowler, and he's still playing more or less near that level from the Cleveland Browns. I think we gave up a 7th, we got him in a 7th, gave up a 5th and a 6th. Thoughts on that value and obviously what he adds to this team that was without Hutch in, it would seem, desperate need of a pass rush?
Yeah, a good value for it. I mean, a 5th and a 6th. You're not necessarily throwing away the farm there. For a guy that's going to fill that role well. I don't know if you saw the report, but they're giving him 2 days off because he was technically supposed to be on a bye. That's just kind of.
I didn't see that.
So they're giving him 2 days off. I don't think. I think they're gonna. It would be they'd give him today and tomorrow off, and then he'll have Sunday to play. He's a tough guy. I mean, he's kind of seems like if you watch any of the film, if you just kind of see how he acts, he seems like your typical Dan Campbell type guy, tough, gritty, kind of in the trenches type defenseman. And I think that's exactly what they needed to fill that role. He's not going to be anywhere near Hutch. But I mean, this is a guy that, I think he's up to, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's up to 5 sacks already. He's got,
year, yeah.
What's up?
Oh, saying on the year, yeah.
He's got 5 sacks this year. Like I said, he's not going to be that guy, or he's not going to be Hutch, but he's at least going to get us somewhere. He's got, a lot of years under his belt. It's not like we traded for a rookie. I think he's someone that could help us down the stretch, but it doesn't exactly like fill me with confidence necessarily. I think he'll be a good plug-in. It doesn't. I'm not as like, drop dead excited as I would be if we got like someone like Max Crosby, which we've talked about. That was completely unrealistic. It's a good trade, and I think where I'm going with this is, unfortunately now Brad Holmes has set the expectation that if there's not a major deal, Lions fans aren't excited. I mean, tell me you wouldn't be like floored if this trade happened like 3 years ago. You would be absolutely you'd be off the rails.
3 years ago at this point, we were what, 0-8?
Exactly.
It's a different team.
That's my point. It's a different team, and I think with that comes different expectations, unfortunately. I think he's going to be a great player. I'm not as excited, and you're not going to be as excited when you have guys like Hutch and when guys like Max Crosby were originally in the conversation.
I tend to agree with you, and I think this is just ends up being the dynamic of our two opinions a lot of the time. Is I ended up being a little bit more positive on this, I think, than you are right now. I said earlier that he is still playing near a Pro Bowl level. That's I think an optimistic overestimation. So I'll draw that back a little bit. He's not going to have a 10 sack year or something, but he's having a very solid year. His max he had back in 2019, 13 and a half sacks. He's had 12 and a half sacks this year. And on this pace right now, he's given for 10 sacks. I think with this team, he'll have not as many opportunities to rush the passer or to have, I guess, single coverage as when you're lined up next to a Myles Garrett, who, yes, has been in and out of the lineup in Cleveland. But if we've said it once, we've said it a million times on this show, mostly in accordance with Hutch on this team. You can't just throw one guy there in the modern NFL and tell him go get sacks. Particularly the last 3 or 4 years, it's been so common to chip with a tight end or a running back or just straight up double team a guy. We saw Hutch dealing with extra pressure so much, and really the only time maybe this year that we've seen him consistently left in single coverage was that Buccaneers game that he just dominated. So it's crazy that that's the way the NFL is, but it makes sense, right? And so I think Za'Darius Smith won't have the same opportunities to go one-on-one or to go against, say, lighter coverage or less attention than he did in Cleveland. So I don't think he'll stay on the just above 10. I think it's a 10.5 sack pace right now. I don't know if he'll stay on that pace, but if you put him in with this defense, I think he raises its level, and he gives you, obviously, a pass rushing edge that you desperately needed. It was too expensive to get Max Crosby. It was too expensive to get. Really, he was sort of the name at the top of the list, but there weren't a ton of other guys in that echelon, and obviously there aren't many other guys at that Max Crosby level in general. But I think for the value you got, Alex mentioned it, it's great value. I think he adds another dimension to this team, and if another thing we've said a lot this season, Ben Johnson might not be here next year. How short is this window where you're not just a contender? Because Ben Johnson leaves, you get another solid play caller, offensive coordinator. You can still have a ton of talent. You still have a great offense, but we're talking about potentially the best team in the league right now. Ben Johnson makes that go. He's the motor just as much, maybe slightly less than Jared Goff is. So when you start talking about the window of this team, no, Smith probably isn't going to be a massive key going forward. He's not some big part of a rebuild. But I think in terms of impact right now for winning this year, I think he gives you a lot. And I like the deal overall. I'd give it probably a B+. Just if we're throwing a grade on there, feel free to throw a grade on there yourself. Let us know down in the comments wherever you're listening or watching. Alex, I mentioned it there, but I've been sort of interested because I think ESPN and big media pundits are finally starting to show it, we may well be the best team in the league right now. And for a long time, it was the Chiefs just because they were undefeated. I saw Stephen A. put us number one in those power rankings. And yes, Stephen A.'s opinion should mean and does mean very little. But are you at this point thinking that this is the best team in the league?
Without a doubt. It's not even close. I think this team whoops the Chiefs if we ever get a chance to play them. If we do, it'll be in the Super Bowl. I mean, looking back to it's easy to say that, like, oh, we lost to the Bucs, and the Chiefs just beat the Bucs in OT. That Bucs game was like, if there's ever been an off game for a team, it was the Lions-Bucs game, where every single like fatal flaw was completely and utterly exploited in one game. That has not happened since. There's a reason we've won 6 straight. You're also going to look at strength of schedule. The Lions are in a much more competitive division, are going to play much tougher games than the Chiefs. The Chiefs, I think they have the Bills, and other than that, the rest of the year, I can't name like a half-decent team that they're going to play. Their division is trash. Their division is complete garbage, at least compared to, like, if you're going to
Chiefs have been playing better. Or, excuse me, Chargers. Chargers
have been playing better, but compared to the NFC North, I mean, there's a reason there's 3 out of the 4 teams that are in the playoff hunt right now. And the Bears are the Bears. I mean, I don't know. I think you can kind of consider them in. It depends on kind of the day, or unless one of their corners decides to celebrate early on a Hail Mary.
Unless DJ Moore decides to stop running routes. That's a tangent, but have you seen that he just does not give a damn? There are multiple routes these past 2 weeks where Caleb Williams is running for his life, and DJ Williams cuts off his route and just stops or leaves the field. I'll send you a clip. I'll put it below me maybe if we end up posting this. He left the field mid-play. Caleb Williams is having a panic attack trying not to get sacked, is sprinting in circles in the backfield, and DJ Moore is literally past the white paint deep into his own sideline. I thought that was hilarious. But regardless, you're right. The NFC North, incredible right now.
Yeah, I just looked it up. DJ Moore was asked if Eberflus has lost the locker room. And no, we are not a Bears podcast. We're not Bears fans. Fuck the Chicago Bears. But what did it say? Has Matt Eberflus lost the team? And team captain DJ Moore, I want to say no. The message yesterday was that we know we're 4-4 now. It's just like being 0-0. But you've got to just go out there and win and start stacking wins like we did, and that's the best thing you can do. He basically just completely avoided the question. And to think that that's where the Lions probably were, 5-10 years ago. And look at us now. It's one of those things where we talked, God, it would have been, it's crazy to think that we were talking about how tough their schedule is going to be going down the line, and we're like, do not press the panic button if they lose one of these games. And obviously that's not over. You've got a tough test in Houston, even without, Nico, even if Nico Collins is back, they still got Tank Dell. This is a solid Houston team. But you've beaten every single team that it would have been understandable to lose to. You've got 2 division rivals in there, beat them. Minnesota game was tough. Do I have balloons surrounding me right now? What the?
It's celebration time in Detroit.
Celebration of a great win against the Packers. But going into that game, you're in Green Bay. And yeah, people were 100% justified in saying, this team has not played a tough weather game yet this year. Can they still do it? And they went out and they did it, top to bottom. And yes, you have the defensive issues. You have, Brian Branch getting ejected, which was I definitely was pressing the panic button at that point. As soon as he goes off the field, I'm of course now the one time when we desperately need him against Jordan Love, we didn't end up desperately needing him. We ended up holding our own. But back to kind of what I was saying, this is a team that we were, semi concerned about this stretch, and they've handled it perfectly. And you've got to not necessarily an easier go down this stretch, but you've got like the Jags in a few weeks. You're going to have the Bears, which should be an easy W. And this cannot be a team that loses the teams that they shouldn't lose to and beats a team that they should lose to.
I hope
don't think I
not.
said that right, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. You're right. The tough stretch isn't over. Houston is a very difficult test, particularly in Houston. And as now a man living in Texas, I can tell you it's still going to be like 85 degrees that day, which is ridiculous. So that's a whole different weather issue than what you're dealing with in Green Bay, a different type of weather, certainly. But then you've got Jacksonville, you've got Indianapolis, and you've got Chicago at home, who are all, of course, very beatable teams, and those all should be wins. So you're talking about potentially, if you take care of your business, extending this winning streak, pushing it maybe to 10, which is really crazy to talk about, like Alex said, when you work through what they've had to deal with scheduling-wise with Seattle, with Dallas, who obviously looks less and less impressive every day, but then with Minnesota in Green Bay, and obviously you still have Houston left. But while we're talking specifically this Green Bay game really quickly, I know that you said we haven't played a game as poorly as we've played against Tampa again this year, and you're absolutely right. Hopefully we never play that poorly again. It looked like really a completely different team than the one we've watched the last 6 weeks. But you watched a team, or I watched a team at least, in that Green Bay game that wasn't perfect, that was asking to get beaten in a lot of ways. You had a number of drops where it looked like, I was talking with my dad after the game. He goes, I'm pretty sure the wide receivers for Green Bay were on strike. Like, they refused to catch a ball for him until they got some contract dispute or something behind the scenes went right for them. There were a number of big drops that would have changed the game, including a touchdown drop late that would have made it one possession in the final moments of that game. So put in retrospect this win, yes, you're in Green Bay, but this was a game that darn near would have been very close if you didn't have that Jordan Love interception. That was great on Kirby Joseph, obviously, right place, right time, but it was just that. It wasn't any, it wasn't a great interception. It was a horrible pick.
It was
right?
an awful throw. Like, I don't know. It's also, they've gone to the, we've been talking about it for a while. Like, why do teams continue to throw in Kirby Joseph's direction? Because they can pay. I'm wondering if that was the wrong point. It's just that now Kirby Joseph must be everywhere, because who the hell had it on their bingo card that you would be lined up with the defensive line?
Yeah, right? It's crazy. But in retrospect, probably 20 to 25 starting quarterbacks in the NFL don't throw that pass and don't think about throwing that pass. All this to say, it was darn near as ugly of a game as you played against Tampa, but I think you looked a lot more clean doing it. You didn't shoot yourself in the foot. You didn't make mistakes like you did against Tampa, and a win heals all. You were able to win the ugly games, which is something that even the best teams need to be able to do. That's what we're seeing really with Kansas City, and I know we were knocking them earlier saying they're not the best team in the NFL, but they're still the second or the third best in the league right now at the very worst. And what are they doing? They're winning ugly. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been the magical player he has been for the last 2 or 3 years. The run game has been all right, not great. Obviously, he has almost nobody to pass to anymore. It's Travis Kelce and a bunch of nobodies. Yes, they got DeAndre Hopkins, but he's not what he was. I'm just saying,
personally, and this is
he's not having big impacts on these games. I'm just saying this is a Chiefs team that has mastered winning, whether it's pretty or not. And I think that this Sunday, we didn't put up the offensive totals we've seen the 5 previous games, but it was just as good of a win in another way that we're showing we're able to win ugly and win the games that a lot of time, like this time last year, we maybe lose that game, is all I'm saying.
That's fair. I mean, if we really wanted to be those people, we could say that Detroit beat Kansas City in the preseason, and that should put them at an auto number 1. But we won't go there. I think this team is playing better football than anyone else. If you look at the talent, if you look at the guys that are not only on the field, but there's a reason everybody's talking about Ben Johnson. There's a reason everybody's talking about Dan Campbell. Everybody talks about Andy Reid every year. I can't even tell you who the Chiefs OC and DC are. Actually, yeah, isn't it Spagnuolo or something?
You can definitely name Spagnuolo. Yeah, he's one of the better DCs in the last 2 decades to touch the NFL.
Or yeah, and then Nagy's the
yeah, dude.
I can't
you
name
definitely
both.
can. You definitely can.
Even still, there's a reason they're not being completely hyped up the way Ben Johnson is or Dan Campbell. There's a very good reason for that. And yes, I know. I said I couldn't do it, and I did it. Whatever.
Very easily too.
But I think my point remains, like, this is an offensive juggernaut of a team, and a team that has had its defensive struggles, but you still got guys like Kirby Joseph. I mean, you throw Hutch in there, you're playing much better than you have. You've got even
Brian Branch is playing all-pro ball, dude.
Well, when he's not getting ejected from games.
When he's not getting ejected, obviously.
Which that just drove me nuts. I mean, this is at what level, like, where the line seems to have completely crossed what it once was with targeting.
It seems like flagrants in the NBA now, where flagrants a couple of years ago changed, where it's no longer about intention, it's about just the action. So, like, if you happen to hit them in the head swiping for the ball, they can still call that a flagrant. The idea being just don't swing near people's heads anymore. And that's different. It's not a contact sport. You've got a full fucking contact sport. Brian Branch comes bearing down. Clearly, it was a case, it should have been targeting, helmet to helmet, it's textbook. Yep. But it was one where the receiver jumped up late, the bodies moved. There wasn't any intention by it. He didn't mean to go head-to-head. He was leading with his shoulder. It happened to get helmet to helmet. It should have been targeting, but ejection is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sucks to see that. I'm happy it happened in the first half because it would have sucked to lose him for that first half in Houston.
True.
It's a spot where you'll definitely need someone like someone with his talent. I do want to quickly mention, because I know we've talked about the Lions for a while now. You're hosting Oregon at home for Michigan this week. Is that game closer than you think it is? Did you expect more of a blowout? I mean, they were playing the number one team in the country, a team that is undefeated. What are the takeaways?
Anyone that has listened to this show, I think at this point probably expects me to give the optimistic take, Alex to give a more pessimistic one.
Me to be the asshole.
That might end up being the case here again. I think I can cover both bases, though. This is an ugly season. You're 5-4. You're praying to finish the year over 500. It's just that kind of year, not something we don't know at this point already. So there's your depressing part. The positive part is, this team hung around a hell of a lot longer than I thought they would. And this team, frankly, was a Samaj Morgan ridiculous play call where he's sprinting around on an end around to throw a fucking pass to Alex Orji. Yeah. Alex Orji can't throw passes. Let's not have him catching. Let's figure out one side of the pass first and then move on to the next one. That's your play call on fourth down. I know we've been positive and hyped up the creativity of the offensive play calling, and it deserves it because creativity is the only way you're going to get positives out of this offense, an offense with this, frankly, pretty terrible level of talent. But fourth down, you can make it one possession. You can make it a one-possession game. One possession with the Oregon Ducks with 8 minutes left in this ball game, and you throw a double reverse to pass it to your linebacker in a quarterback's uniform. I don't know if that's the play call. In fact, I do know. I know it's not the play call.
It's kind of like trying to teach multivariable calculus to a student that can't do basic multiplication. Like,
let's not dog Orgy too hard.
Like, why are we trying to force them to advance that heavily when they've proved that they cannot do the fundamentals? That to me, and it begs the question: is how much of this team struggles is on the coaching staff? This is a brand new coaching staff, brand new to Michigan. Like, I don't think Sherrone Moore's ever been a head coach. Wink Martindale, I hadn't heard his name in years.
Back in the day with the Giants, young blood.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is a young team, not just player wise, but it's an inexperienced coaching it's an inexperienced coaching staff especially from the collegiate level. Yes, you've got your Will Johnsons, and yes, all of your quarterbacks had technically played before. But outside of that, there wasn't a lot to go around.
Hey, Alex Orgy completed a pass this Saturday. I will have no Orgy hate. Was it for 1 yard? Yes, but we ignore that part.
I mean, and when you've got guys that like Portnoy who are like offering to like go out and like buy them quarterbacks, like that's when like it's kind of gone to shit. And it is unfortunate. Like, yes, you had the, oh boy, I'm screwing up my mic here. You had the you had your kind of your ballroom moment. You went 15-0. You won a natty, even with all the Stallions stuff. Like, I am one that will always say, whether that was the case or not, whether how much that guy fucked up or didn't fuck up, none of that can take away from the talent that was on that team and what they accomplished. Nothing will. There's a reason those guys are all in the NFL right now. It's not because they had a bunch of plays stolen from them, but all those guys are in the NFL now. This is not a talent. This is not a developed enough team. They're going to lose. The fact that they didn't get blown out by Oregon should at least say something. This is a team that beat USC, who at the time, I think, what was USC ranked at the time?
I think they were 11th at the time.
Yeah, they were 11th. And Miller Moss was supposed to be this great guy, and they beat him. There have been brief moments of glory, but it was never going to be, this was not a top 10 team like they were ranked in the preseason. You can go back to earlier episodes and you can hear me say it again. This is not a incredible football team this year.
I appreciate that we're both hitting a nice balance here, because I think that's where we've gotten with this team. And I said something along these lines last week, but I think it's still true that you've got a season that's been over for a long time, right? We've been probably a month or so, really since that loss in Washington, that you're like, all right, this isn't going to be the season that I prayed it could be, that the ceiling could be hit somewhere, that we could find a way to click. It's a down year, new coaching staff, like Alex mentioned, everyone's gelling together, and that will take time and figuring everyone out, and frankly, maybe shuffling around some of the assistants may help with that in this offseason as Moore figures out what he wants to do. Regardless, the season looks for those little gemstones that Alex mentioned, where, man, you almost beat Oregon, the little things, right? You almost beat Oregon. You put Michigan State back in their place. There are wins this year that make you feel good. Hold on to those things and just remember the natty from last year and just cherish those memories, because we talk about it all the time. Alex just said it. You have your ballroom moments. Hold on to them, because they come once in not everybody's Alabama. Alabama and Saban, that's a one-off thing. Having the best coach in the world, one-off thing. He made winning look so easy. But you have to understand, even the other big-name, big high-profile programs like Michigan hadn't won a natty since 97 before last year. The wins come once in a while. Hold on to them while you got them. Let those memories warm you through the cold darkness of what could be a losing record this year. I think that's all we need on Michigan football right now. Michigan basketball will take a pit stop there, and we've got a lot more positive things to say in this department, which we are so happy about. And I'll qualify everything real quick with, yes, they beat Cleveland State. Cleveland State is going to be what you probably expect Cleveland State to be this year. A top 10 team, I'm sorry. They'll probably play well in the Horizon League, but it's just that. It's the Horizon League, and a win is a win regardless. Yes, it's Cleveland State, but you looked like a damn good basketball team, and that's not something we've said for probably 3 years here. So that felt really good. If anyone else out there watched that game, I think the only thing that you can come away from it with is pleasant surprise. Were they expected to be good this year, Michigan? Absolutely. Were they expected to be a ranked team? Probably not. I think we may end up poking our heads into the rankings at some point. But this was pleasant surprise. Danny Wolf, we have to talk about him. This dude balled. He was phenomenal. And you sort of watch him go out at first, like probably most Michigan fans will watch basically most Michigan players on this team, and that is with, wonder who this guy is. Because the entire starting lineup is in their first year with the program. That's modern college basketball. That's what Dusty May's bringing here. That's what we need to win, whether you like it or not. So everyone's getting used to these guys. Everyone's seeing how they mesh with each other, and everyone is still, I'm sure, out there learning names. One name you have to learn, along with Trey Donaldson, who had a great game in his own right, the Auburn transfer, is Danny Wolf. This kid was so good. 8 of 10 from the field, 19 points, 13 boards, and I'll be damned if I've ever seen a college kid that young move that well at 7 feet. Yes, that was a little bit of over-optimism there. I'm not saying that he's Jokic or something out there, but he passed the ball well. He had good vision. He got out and ran. He one time had a strip and go and score. He jumped into a passing lane and ran the other whatever the hell half of 94 feet is to go lay it up and in. No one caught up to him. Most 7-footers not able to do that. I thought he moved really well. He showed off some touch. I think he only took 1 3 technically, but I thought the jumper looked nice. I thought he moved really well. Is he going to blow you away with speed or like snatch cross a guard in the open floor? Obviously not. But he moves real well at 7 foot. He looked good. Trey Donaldson looked solid. I think I said that already. Will Shetter, he did come off the bench. I was double checking that. Looked real good. Vlad Golden maybe is really the one part of this team where you're like, I expected him to play a little bit better, but did a good job protecting the rim. I think this was just a nice, solid, boost the spirits. Start the year right. Don't put too much stock in it because it is Cleveland State, and you can't watch this game and say, now we're world beaters and we're going to go to the moon and we're going to, go be a top 10 team and this and that. I'm not saying we won't be, but can't base it off of this win. But that's a nice way to start the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll take a 19 and 13 day any day of the week, especially from a center.
Crazy.
Again, like you said, it's Cleveland State. Not much there. This is going to be a team that you're obviously going to judge once conference comes. And yes, for those of you who noticed, I did get rid of my mic because it was being an idiot. But again, I think this is a team that's going to do a little bit of this. It's a first-year head coach in Dusty May. Obviously, he was very successful at FAU, and you've clearly got some talent there through the portal, but it's going to take a while to gel. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be rocky. It's a great start, but even as he said, we just got to continue to play basketball. It's not going to be like this every day. So you're going to have to continue to work. I do kind of want to preface, unless you had much more on Michigan.
I want to give one quick Michigan shout out that isn't men's basketball.
Oh, right. Yep.
Nobody watches women's basketball. That's fine. But if you're a Michigan fan, and we're talking about learning names of new kids, and yes, Alex is right, they're probably going to take some meshing to get used to, just like we're going to have to get used to their names. As long as you're in the learning names mode as a Michigan basketball fan, learn the name Swords. Yes, that's a fucking dope name, but Selah Swords absolutely fucking balled. 27, 12 boards, 2 assists, a steal, just 1 turnover, hit a couple threes
against South Carolina
as a true freshman. She had a play where she missed a shot, went, hustled, grabbed her own, put it up, missed it. Chloe Kitts, who's one of the obviously better players in the country, grabbed the board, Swords walks up and fucking takes the ball from her like it's her lunch money. From Chloe Kitts, up and in, dogged her, just took it from her. She played great. Yes, it's a loss. I'm not going to throw paint on a pig or whatever the saying is and call it whatever. I can't remember the saying. I'm not going to tell you this isn't something that it wasn't. It's still a loss. But you lost to the number one team in the entire country and the reigning national champs by 6 points. That's a damn good start. And with overall a pretty young team, I think that's a good way to start. Will I be watching every game? Will you? Probably not. Will most people out there be doing any different? Obviously not. But a good way to start the year, and I think Swords is a name worth knowing or worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you told me we were going to wait for that stat line until now. I think that's unreal. Also great to be competitive against the number one team in women's basketball. I do want to transition here and talk about what is actually a fairly big game tonight for the Wings. And that is Wings are in Chicago. Patty Kane is making another return to Chicago along with Alex DeBrincat. And I am going to spoil my Michigan pick now because it does have to do with this game. Either of them, or I would take DeBrincat over half a point and Kane over half a point tonight. Parlay it both. I don't know the exact odds on that, but that's a parlay both. I think both of them continue what they did last February. I know DeBrincat had the game tying goal to make it 2 apiece, and then obviously Kaner scored the legendary moment goal in overtime where he scores. I don't know if anyone remembers the replay. Jake Wallman goes over to try to celebrate with him, basically pushes Wallman aside because he's got to do his own little Showtime moment. If you haven't seen that clip, go back and watch it. It was fucking incredible. Don't necessarily want an overtime game tonight, but I wouldn't mind another Patty Kane goal. I do think this team needed to. The one thing that scared me was, I would have been, was it Sunday we were against, Sunday or Saturday against the Sabres, relying on 2 power play goals, and that was our entire offense against the Buffalo Sabres. That's a little scary. And then obviously that was to snap a 3-game losing streak. You do have 2 of the better teams in the NHL on that streak. You've got the Jets, you've got the Oilers. Kept it close against the Oilers, just lost in OT, I believe. And then, the Jets are one of the better teams. Obviously, you don't want to lose 6-2, but this is a team that we knew was going to struggle defensively, and they were unfortunately going to give up massive numbers of goals per night. That's what happens when you don't have defensive depth. Luckily, I think hockey is one of those games where it's going to go like this. Hoping to continue that, or to start a winning streak tonight. I've liked what I've seen out of Larkin. I've liked what I've seen out of DeBrincat. I've liked what I've seen offensively. Still loving what I'm seeing out of Micah Rasmussen. Defense is going to be like this. That's where I do think this is the year that by the deadline, I think Stevie Y will have acquired a, top 6 defenseman, someone who's going to, or top 4 defenseman. I think he's, someone to kind of fill that role as they make a playoff push. On that note, not only is it, not only do the Wings play tonight, we also have the Pistons against the Hornets. Pistons playing against LaMelo Ball. This is a team that seems to keep it close and seems to, they kept it close against Boston. They were able to beat Cleveland the other day. They're showing little spurts that I don't think we saw last year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, and there's a certain point where you wonder early in the year if it's playing up or down to your level of competition, which obviously can sometimes be a mark of a bad team, which the Pistons probably objectively are. But you got to feel good about how they looked against the Nets and particularly against the Lakers, just because the Lakers are going to give you more in terms of quality of opponent than the Nets.
They're up 18-13, and Cade already has 12 points.
Brother, Cade Cunningham is so good at basketball, and you may be looking at yourself right now thinking, obviously, but it's not obvious. Nobody talks about how fucking well Cade Motor Cunningham is playing basketball. He's been so good. He's turned the ball over. Yes, some of them have been stupid turnovers, but with the amount of this offense that's on his back, the dude is a hooper. Dropped a triple double on the Lakers. The Pistons beat the Lakers, and somehow the conversation is still about the Lakers' loss. They got upset by the Pistons, and not the fact that the Pistons won back-to-back games on back-to-back nights. They had a back-to-back where they were away. They were in Brooklyn. Then they came back home to literally less than 24 hours play against the Lakers, beat both of them. And Cade drops a triple-double in a win over maybe the biggest team market-wise in the nation, in the league. And no one talks about 17, 11, and 11. 17, 11, and 11. Come on.
Well, he's
That's
playing
got to
against
feel
LeBron.
so
They're not gonna
good.
talk about it.
Not going to talk about it. And he did pretty solid defensively, too, because guess who he was guarding? LeBron, who shot 7 of 16 from the floor, which is like okay, but it's LeBron James. And he had negative 16 plus minus, did LeBron. But no one's going to talk about it. Whatever. I'll get off the tangent. I think the Pistons have looked very solid overall, and I told you that we're probably going to start really bad. And I told you not to jump ship. If you remember, go back a couple weeks ago. Alex said it earlier in the show. I think when we were talking about Michigan football, go back a couple weeks and you'll hear us saying the same thing. Same thing applies here. Go back a couple weeks and you'll remember us talking about the Pistons saying, this schedule is hellish to open the year. We could play decent basketball and start 2 of 4 or start 1 of 5. That's exactly what we did. Now we're getting to it, and I'm not going to say blame the entire thing on the schedule. We certainly deserve to lose some of those games. We played really poorly, especially against the Knicks, but now that we're through that, now that the rust is shaken off, I think we've looked really solid, and we could potentially be winning 3 games in a row here. It's not technically going to be my pick of the week because it's happening tonight, and so by the time anyone hears this, it's going to be finished already. But the Pistons close favored by 1 point in Charlotte against the Hornets, and obviously they're leading right now, like Alex said. I've got that. Pistons against the spread, Pistons money line. It'll be almost the same. I love that pick. I love the way the Pistons are playing right now. I think Tobias's rebounding has been really solid. And I'll give away my actual pick of the week, which is when the Pistons next play, which is after this. I think it's Saturday, it's Friday against the Hawks at home. I've got Tobias 8+ rebounds, or his rebounds over. Whichever you like more, the 8+ is going to be plus probably 150, depending on where it lands. I think he's added a great amount of rebounding to this team. I think he's been very solid in that regard for a team, particularly when Stu was out there. It's been interesting these past few games. To start the year, Isaiah Stewart, that was the big thing going in, was we're going to put him back at the 5. We're going to be he's our center. He's not a power forward. We tried to make him one. He's going to be our center, and he really struggled. And everyone on comments and Instagram and Twitter was calling for him not to be a center anymore, to get him off this team, everything in between. But these last few games, he's settled into the role, and he had 17 fucking rebounds the other night. That's incredible. And I know that this is going to counteract that, what I just said, but he's very undersized. He's going to struggle when he rebounds alone. I think JB Bickerstaff knows that, and I think that's where you get a level up in coaching, where you say, all right, I understand that I need to have Stu on the floor because it helps out our defense a lot. Then what do I need to do is I need to pair those rotations with people who can rebound the ball very well. When you've got Tobias Harris, not really known throughout his career as a rebounder, averaging right now almost 8 rebounds a game. He's at 7.8 rebounds per game right now. That's pretty damn good. I think that's a intentional coaching change, and I'd like to see that from Bickerstaff, and I've liked the results so far for this team.
I love hearing that, especially because, I think most people were probably pretty pessimistic going in. I do kind of love beating the Lakers because every time I do, I think back to the whole Isaiah Stewart, LeBron James altercation.
We
From a
didn't
few
get
years.
around to, sadly.
What's up?
We didn't get around to.
No, which would have
Unfortunate.
been great, but it would have ended with Beef Stew getting ejected because no one can ever touch LeBron and this and this and that. It's the joy. But did I already give my Michigan picks? Was it for
I
tonight?
think you gave your Michigan. Do you have an overall pick?
Overall pick? I do want to verify the odds real quick.
While you're checking that, I'll give mine, which is the Bills are playing in Indianapolis against the Colts. And I know the Colts are probably due for a rebound. They're not going to play that poorly offensively again, especially with Joe Flacco in there. But the Bills are favored by 3.5. I'm hammering that all day long. I love it. By the way, end of the first quarter, that was the buzz on my phone. Pistons up 24-23 as we're finishing recording this episode. But Bills minus 3.5, my pick of the week.
All right. I am going tomorrow. So today is November 6th. Tomorrow, the 7th at 10:30 p.m., the late NHL game. Sharks Wild going over 5.5. I think any team with Krill the Thrill, Matt Boldy, and all those guys going up against a team that shows some life every once in a while with its rookies in the Sharks, there's going to be way more scoring than that line. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking there. These are both two teams that when they explode, they explode. I think 5.5 is a little low, which is weird to say because the regular line is normally 6.5. So really, when you think about it, it is only one goal down. But I do think we get a lot more scoring in that game. And then the parlay, the DeBrincat and Kane points, whatever your odds are there, would be the Michigan pick.
Yeah, my Michigan pick, by the way, was the 8+ rebounds from earlier. Obviously, we say it every week, but bet responsibly. Don't bet what you can't lose. And I think, Alex, before we end this show, anyone that has listened for a long time knows Alex is big into hockey. I'm big into basketball. There's not a ton of overlap, but we're both trying real hard, right?
A little bit. We're learning.
Me to learn the Red Wings, him to learn the Pistons, and we're sort of helping each other to overlap. And I heard Krill the Thrill there, and I think we need to start at the end or the beginning or somewhere in our episodes. Just each of us teach the other one thing like that about the other sport, and I'm going to start it this week. Hope maybe we make it a tradition, maybe we don't.
Shit.
What the hell does Krill the Thrill mean? Who is that?
Before I go there, I do have an on this day Detroit sports history that
hell yeah
earlier. 2021 on November 6th, Wings Sabres. Mo Seider gets his first career goal, and it's the overtime winner, which was a big goal at that time. Believe it or not, that's when we still had he was on the ice with Tyler Bertuzzi and Philip Zadina, both who are gone, one of which I believe we will face Bertuzzi tonight since he was with the Blackhawks last I checked. And Zadina is wherever the fuck Zadina is. I think he's still on the Sharks. Kirill Kaprizov, the man raised with the Bears in Russia. He is a sniper and he is wicked fast. I would kill for someone like him. We already have offense, but he's pretty fucking good.
Hell yeah. I love the inclusion there of a on this day in Michigan sports history. That's a tradition that we've gotten away from that we used to do every episode. Hopefully we can start bringing it back here. Something else that we need to bring back, and I think we need to sprinkle these throughout the episode, not do them all at the end like this. But we used to have a little fun stat of the week. And I've got a stat of the week right here that I almost forgot to share during that Lions segment. We talked a lot about the Lions, so we'll leave that for the front of the episode, but I've got a quick little stat of the week here. The Lions' record playing in Lambeau from 1992 to 2021, 3-25. Since 2021, we have won that same number of games in Lambeau. We are 3-0. That is a damn good feeling. Any and every Lions fan, 3-25. Any and every self-respecting Lions fan has probably 3 or 4 different memories they can point to of going into Lambeau with a season on the line and just getting your heart ripped out. For us, it's been mostly Aaron Rodgers doing that heart ripping, but it's been a long time. That is almost a full 3 decades of losing in Lambeau and losing bad in Lambeau. So, like we said, hold on to the ballroom moments if you're a Michigan football fan. If you're a Detroit sports fan, to quote Macklemore, yes, sir. To quote Macklemore, and I'm blanking on the exact quote, but you don't know you're in the good old days until you left them, and you're looking back on them. That you're in the good old days right now if you're a Michigan Lions or if you're a Detroit Lions fan, because everybody knows that it's been decades and decades and decades and decades of losing. The ballroom moments don't come around all that often. Feel good, feel happy, cheer for the Lions right now. We're not going to always be this good. We haven't been for a long time. Feel good about those wins, and don't feel too terrible about the losses. That, I think, will do it for episode 25 of Pure Michigan Sports. Christian Peck-Dimit and Alex Deimel. Until next time, goodbye.
Sweet.